Welcome to the Death of the Author podcast, episode 11, your world this week in the teen fiction universe and general geekery. You're here with Alexandra, a fictionado of all things nerdy and obscure, and Chelsea, writer of many unfinished things and general story connoisseur.
Yo!
Okay, this is the podcast for the weeks of March 8th to the 22nd. We have been up to a lot of things lately. Not a lot of them actually book-related.
No.
Which is strange. I mean, I feel like May's gonna hit us, and then everything's gonna just explode.
And then it's gonna be BookCon.
Yeah.
Because we have to mention BookCon at least once per episode.
Because we think about it all the time.
Yes.
And, yeah, we've just been really busy. We've been trying to catch up on all the work we said we would do in February, and we didn't actually do in February, or it got destroyed.
Yeah, I've been having some not so good luck with my laptop as of late.
You decided to do a purge, and you purged a bit too much.
Yeah, that happens. I get excited.
I get to delete all the things!
When you're at 280 megabytes on your computer, you get a little bit crazy.
Yeah, so Vampire Week, because we've shortened it to a week because...
is at the end of March.
Supposedly.
It's gonna happen.
It will happen eventually. We have a lot actually coming out this week, even though we're lazy. Apparently everybody else is not. So, on March 10th, we have Little Peach by Peggy Kern, Silent Alarm by Jennifer Banish, and The Orphan Queen by Jody Meadows, and also Vanishing Girls by Lauren Oliver.
I have a love-hate relationship with Lauren Oliver.
Why is that?
Because I really like Delirium, and I haven't really liked anything else by her.
Didn't she do an adult fiction book?
She did. It's called Rooms. I have not read it yet.
So it could be good.
Could be good. It's about ghosts.
Could be good.
Could be good.
Yeah, I haven't read anything by her, but she's kind of been in my periphery for a very long time. First with Delirium, and then just kind of been hearing her name randomly. I think she might actually be at BookCon.
I think so.
Anyways, March 17th, we have another round of books. Under Painted Sky by Stacey Lee. Everything That Makes You by Moriah McStay. That's an interesting last name. Hold Me Closer, The Tiny Cooper Story by David Leviathan. And last but not least, The Wrong Side of Right by Jen Marie Thorne. And our feature book for this week is Silent Alarm by Jennifer Banash.
All right. Alice's whole world was comprised of the history project that was due, her upcoming violin edition, being held tightly in the arms of her boyfriend Ben, and laughing with her best friend Delilah. At least it was, until she found herself on the wrong end of a shotgun in the school library. Her suburban school had become one of those places you hear about on the news, a place where some disaffected youth decides to end it all and take as many of his teachers and classmates with him as he could. Except in this story, that youth was Alice's own brother Luke. He killed 15 others and himself, but spared her, though she'll never know why. Alice's downward spiral begins instantly, and there seems to be no bottom. A heartbreaking and beautifully told story. That got really depressing really fast. Wow.
I just love giving you the backs of books and listening to your surprise as they...
I don't know. I mean, we've read so much dark fantasy. I'm not really in the mood to read
dark anything.
I want happy. I want stupid. I want, I don't know, memoirs. I've been reading a lot of memoirs.
But that's not what's been coming out lately.
I know. It's depressing. Everything is just so sad. I don't want sad.
I know in the last podcast too, we're like, oh, there are 3 books here about suicide. That's great. That's exactly what I wanted to read.
I mean, I'm not saying that there's no market for sad, depressing, thought-provoking books. It's just...
that's not what you want to read.
I don't want to read that right now. I've been saturated with it, you know?
I know. I get you. I'm right there with you. That is why, we chose our topic for today! Woohoo! Guilty pleasures. Yeah.
So to combat all of the sad, we're going to talk about our sadness.
No. We're going to talk about those things that are so awful that it just makes us laugh and hate ourselves a little bit because we're actually enjoying what we're reading. So not depressing, just ironic.
Mm-hmm. So what do you look for in your guilty pleasure reads, Chelsea?
Stupid.
What defines stupid?
It has to have like an out there plot, but there's also got to be something that is really fascinating. And also probably some bad writing. Just to stir the pot a little more. Not a lot of guilty fiction that I could think of, but we made a list.
Well, of course, the moment that this topic was decided upon, I screamed the first series that comes to mind for me, which I'm actually currently reading the 7th book out. That is the Fever series by Karen Marie Moning, and before we started recording this podcast, I actually read about 6 pages aloud to Chelsea. And coming into this completely blind, what was your reaction?
Oh my god, what is she reading? What is going on? Why is she hissing? Not like she hissed these words, but she actually hissed. And what is a slice to the left with your head? What does that mean? And what is going on? Oh my god, is this a woman writing this? Because there are magic penises in this story.
So,
and
for those of you who don't know and have never heard of this series, this was actually recommended to me in my first year of university. I did a book swap with one of my friends from one of my history classes. And she gave me this series that she picked up, she said, at a Shoppers Drug Mart, just off like a rack. She grabbed the first one.
That explains a lot.
And this series, it holds a special place in my heart. For one reason. And that is the world building is phenomenal. Like, this fairy world is crazy. The detail in, like, the different fae, it goes, like, you have your Seelie, you have your Unseelie, and it's just, the concept is so amazing. The execution is so awful. And, like, your main character is, the big deal is that she's this good southern girl. She's from Georgia, and her sister has been killed in Ireland. She went to Dublin to study at the university, and so she flies over to try and find her sister's killer. And soon finds out that her sister was involved in a bunch of stuff, and she was dating this guy who called himself the Lord Master, and things got weird pretty fast, and she hooks up with this guy named Jericho Barons, and he's kind of not human, but he's super, super attractive, and it just devolves into really weird sex.
Guilty pleasure, everyone. Guilty pleasure. Horrible writing. Horrible
and,
writing.
I mean, it's one of those things where I really have to turn my brain off, and the 6th book was so horrible. Just the message behind it, you know, like the morals behind it just kind of hurt my soul a lot. To the point where actually there was so much outrage that the author didn't publish anything for like 4 years and had to completely reroute where her plot was going. So yeah, Fever series by Karen Marie Moning. Lots of fun.
Turn your brain off right here. So the first thing that came to my mind when she's like, hey, guilty pleasures, was actually the Sword of Truth series by Terry Goodkind. Now, this book has sold tons and tons of copies. It is popular. He's still publishing books. It had its own TV series, which was actually pretty good for a little while. And I read the first one and I kind of really liked it. And then I read the rest of them kind of slowly over time when I needed just something to read. And eventually I stopped enjoying it and started hating it and enjoying it at the same time. And that was when I kind of realized it was a guilty pleasure of mine, because the main character is just so ridiculous. He is perfect in every single way. He cannot mess up. He's just like godlike and gorgeous and just unbelievable. He's a Mary Sue. That's what he is. And his girlfriend is a Mary Sue, and they are just the most awesomest awesome people that you will ever meet, who are ever going to be awesome. And I think what hit me was just like, you know, how wonderful they were, and like the world building is really good in this series. Like, there are like a lot of things that kind of like build on each other, and it's high stakes, but it just got to be too much at one point. Like, everything was high stakes, and not only that, like, you got to the point where you realize that magic is seeping out of the world, and there's nothing that anybody can do about it, and I'm just like, okay, what's the point? He can't actually save the world, even though he's, like, perfection. So why am I reading this? And I just kind of stopped. But the last book that actually really got my attention, which was really fun, was it's called The Pillars of Creation, and it's told from the perspective of a sister, which like never happened. She was a character you had never met before, and she runs into characters who are telling her that her brother Richard, the most perfect, awesome person ever, is evil. And so you're reading this whole thing, and people are telling her lies, like, oh, Richard did this because this, and he wants to, like, enslave everyone, and lies, and she's believing them, and you get really frustrated, because you're like, no, that's not what happened! And so that was the last good book for me, and after that, I had to put it down.
I've never read any of them. I own 6 of them.
Stop there.
I love the TV show. I think I found did I find the TV show?
You found the TV show.
It was a Facebook post. I saw a Facebook post of Richard Cypher and Kaylin in costume. And I'm like, oh, fantasy TV show, let's watch it. This is the best thing ever. And by best, I mean the worst.
There's, like, definitely some really cool elements
Oh,
to
man,
series.
I love it. I love it.
Like, love the Confessors, love the Mordseth, like...
Love Zed.
Yeah. But, you know, as a book, it gets wearing. Yeah. Really wearing.
But to leave behind the world of fantasy, we're going to now plunge deep into the world of thriller novels. To one of my biggest guilty pleasures in the whole wide world, and that is Dan Brown. Dan Brown of The Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons, Inferno, The Digital Fortress, and Deception Point fame.
Lost Symbol.
Lost Symbol. I always forget that one because I never finished that one.
Really?
No, I got about halfway through, realized exactly what was going to happen, and put the book down. No, yeah, that's, I'm like, oh, 2 guys in a cell, only 1 guy comes out. It's not the guy you think. Done.
Yep.
Goodbye.
Yeah, that's why they're kind of guilty too, because you can, after a while, you predict exactly what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, okay, fine, I've got this. Just throw everything at me, Dan Brown. Throw all your illusions at me.
I mean, he definitely jumped off the cliff for Inferno. He's like, you think you know me, right, guys? You think you know me. We're going to change this up a bit. Oh, guess what? And you're just sitting there reading, and you're just like, Dan
They
Brown.
couldn't see that gesture.
I'm flailing my arms. You're sitting there reading, and you're like, Dan Brown, that you're not shocking anyone, Dan Brown.
We figured you out.
The thing about Inferno was it kind of danced into like the sci-fi a little bit.
It did. It did with like the bomb that could magically make most people infertile.
Because the thing behind Inferno is all the Dan Brown books choose like something like conspiracy theories. Inferno, it's more along the lines of it takes Dante's Inferno and someone is leaving clues via Dante's Inferno to do a thing, which is basically he believes that the Earth is too populated, so let's cut 1/3 of the reproductive
capabilities of human beings of the planet.
And you're sitting there and you're reading it and you're just like, this is absolutely awful, but logical.
It is.
And that's the thing.
And that's what scares you, is you're like, this makes a lot of sense. We should probably be doing this, but we're not.
And like, it's played up to be this big, horrible thing. There's nothing we can do. And you're just kind of like, there are no stakes. Like, you killed your stakes. Like, it's awesome to do the whole, like, Watchmen thing. Oh, actually, Mr. Bond, I pulled the switch 30 minutes ago. It's already happened. But then what? There's no way to come back from that. It's just like, hey, I guess it's done. I guess
I'm just gonna sit back.
Yeah, this sucks, but...
And then he's got this whole altered world now.
Yeah.
If he's gonna, like...
It no longer takes place in our world.
Yeah. So, clearly this is a guilty pleasure, because we're like, this is kind of awful, but we're really enjoying it. And you know what? That book kind of scared me. Like, it kind of, like, really brought to the front, like, population crisis. Like, it was rooted in fact in that point, where all his other things were like, hey, this is a crazy theory that probably never in a million years would actually happen.
I wrote a review for Inferno. I think it's kicking around on the website. I should go back and read it. I just remember writing this really sarcastic review about it, and I think the thing about Dan Brown that I both love and hate is that he knows exactly how to play with you. Like, he knows how to give you what you want.
And he knows how to put the suspense in there too, right?
Even though it's awful. It's just like two people are in a room. One of them is the lover of the bad guy. Which one is it? Just like,
well, it's not the one I think it is.
Let's be obvious. Let's do the obvious bait and switch. Oh, freaking Dan Brown.
One day he's gonna catch on, and it's gonna be exactly who he's telling us it is.
Yeah, that'll be the day. You thought you knew me.
I told you exactly what was happening, and you didn't believe me this time. Huh?
This is what happens when you lie too much. I stopped trusting you.
Oh, never trust a liar.
And finally, to bring it home, we're going to return back to our well-known territory, and that is teen fiction, specifically vampire teen fiction.
Guilty pleasure? I think so.
Yes. So we both have our specific guilty pleasure vampire fiction.
For me, it is the Rochelle Mead Vampire Academy. For you?
It's the Vampire Diaries.
But I think for you, it's more the TV show.
It's more the TV show. I flipped through the books, but I guess I could say the same thing about Vampire Academy. Like, it's cotton candy. You know, you flip through it, you're entertained, you realize it's absolutely nothing to it, and meaningless and awful.
And it kind of gets you angry at the same time.
Yeah, but
you just keep coming back to it. So you gotta be getting something out of it.
Yeah, I mean, Vampire Diaries, I just yell at it a lot.
It makes you feel better.
And I yell at Chelsea about it, too.
She does. I get lots of yelling.
I'm just an angry person.
Well, it's okay. I've accepted it.
So, Chelsea, to finish it off, because we haven't done this in a while, what are you reading?
Oh my god. What am I not reading at this point? Okay. I'll give you the quick rundown.
Okay.
Literally today I just finished The Ocean at the End of the Lane.
And how was that?
Freaking amazing. Made me cry on the subway. Felt like an idiot because I'm like trying hard not to look like I'm crying on the subway while I'm reading this book, and I don't even know particularly why I'm crying. It's just somehow you come out feeling like you've lost something in the process of growing up, and you're just a broken human being. You don't even know what you've lost, and that's the point. That is why you're crying. You've lost something and you can't figure out what the fuck it is.
That's Neil Gaiman, man. He's amazing.
Yeah, and immediately after I finished that on my way home, I picked up Horns by Joe Hill.
Nice.
I am like 6 pages into that. Totally interested. Totally sounds fun.
Such a good book.
Am imagining the movie in my head and am a little scared.
The movie's okay.
Okay.
It's not a direct adaptation. They do change a lot, but it's an okay movie, and Daniel Radcliffe's American accent is kind of amazing. And by amazing, I say silly.
Yeah. And then I am also reading The Birth of the Pill by, I can't remember the author's name. That is really fascinating because it is it's kind of written like fiction, but it's nonfiction. Story about the people who kind of work together to develop the birth control pill. And it is absolutely fascinating because you're getting like their influences by like famous psychologists like Freud and I want to say Huxley, but it's not. Kinsley. There we go. By Albert Kinsley, and these people who are like kind of influencing them and what they wanted, and there's just a whole bunch of really interesting people with interesting motivations who developed this thing, and I'm maybe 60 pages in, but I'm fascinated.
Nice.
And 50s culture.
Crazy time.
Yeah.
I just finished As You Wish, the memoir of making the Princess Bride. I cried.
Aww.
A lot.
Aww.
It's just, it made me so happy, and how everybody talks about Andre the Giant, and just, it's like a fairy tale to feel, like, it's what you wanted to hear happening behind set, and just, like, how Carrie Elwes said Mandy Batkin trained every day for the sword fight, and the sword fight took like 2 weeks to film, and it just makes your heart just hurt because it makes you so happy. But as mentioned earlier, I am also reading Burn by Karen Marie Moning. There will be a text posted about that once I finish it, because I have a lot of things to say.
You should repost your one of the book before that.
I should post that. I do have that on my Indigo book reviewer website thing. That actually got me a lot of hate.
Whoops!
Yeah, I don't know. I've been reading a bunch of comic books in between just because I have this big stack of comic books that people have lent me, and I haven't read them, so...
That too.
Yeah, that too. Been doing a lot of reading. I just don't remember what.
Yeah, it's the point in my life. I'm reading everything. So yeah. So it has been a very, very quick March. By the time we get to the next podcast, it will not be March anymore. It will be April, and that will be scary. Because where did March go? Somebody tell me. Anyways, so we will see you guys later. If you have any comments, if you have any questions, you guys know where to find us. We're at www.doftheA.com. We are also on Twitter at doftheareviews. She is at Zeries_Loki. And we are also on YouTube at doftheA Reviews. So, find us online. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you want to hear us talk about. Questions, comments, suggestions.
Alright guys, so that's it for the week. I hope you have a lovely March. I hope it's not too cold where you are. And remember, March 15th, beware the Ides of March.
Hey.